And it was a bit of a tall order, if I'm being honest. Not the team order, but sadly that GZ losing at the start of the game, having a bit of a struggle streak in my opinion, but then out of nowhere they just said, nah, our macro's too good, we're not worried, and then they just clean up with a very quick and contentious game. Tally, I know you wanted that sort of, you were expecting a bit of like the sweep, right? Thinking, oh no, this is the team that can pull it around. Do you think they can pull game 2?
Definitely, I think there's always potential. You know, you can always lose every game, but like they need to obviously get a much bigger lead than they did, because we got to see like the outclassing of the game knowledge in the mid game when it comes to how to like deploy on 3 lanes. You know, play the macro game really well. And even though, you know, the members on Dials are really fed, they just could never fight. They could never group up and really abuse their poke comp. They were just constantly split on the map, answering waves, and just never in a good position to utilize their team.
I think this 20-minute Baron, the best note that I wrote down is, we asked Shenfire for a Zyra 20-minute Baron. We got the 20-minute Baron, but no Zyra. So I guess it just goes to show you can do it on any champion at the moment as well, Skibby.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what he plays. I think he's just got so much experience under his belt from playing here beforehand, from going overseas to showcase his skills internationally, to absolutely smashing it in Korean solo queue. So doesn't matter what he plays, a bit of a masterclass from him in the end, and I think a lot of that was very well done in the fact that he invaded, right? Knew that Mochi was going to then go for his own buff, communicated it to his team, and then the likes of Tien and Fido were able to very quickly shut that down. And that's just the hallmarks, right, of these really good individual players, showcasing leadership characteristics and bringing it all together. So I don't think they were ever worried. They weren't worried yesterday when they were behind by Team Bliss. They certainly weren't going to be worried by tonight's account.
No, not a worry at all on the Ground Zero side, but we have to quickly, while we've got the damage charts and items as well, Tally, walk me through this bot lane on Ground Zero, because this is sort of the Ashe Leona that we've referenced with other things, but there's no Warmogs and there's no Triforce on this Ashe. What's going on?
Yeah, as I mentioned on cast, like this is the highest DPS Ashe build. You know, Limus more. He's a player who likes to rely on his mechanics a lot more, and I just think this is, you know, the more efficient build. Triforce just doesn't allow you the time to really take over the game as Ashe, because I think she's a really strong early game champion, and you need to stay on that same tempo to just be aggressive as possible. But I think, you know, Kurak not going Warmogs this game, going for Locket instead is completely understandable. You know, he was very far behind in terms of item compared to Shinky, so you're like going into the mid game and just being like, guys, I'm gonna give you a shield. Just avoid, you know, some of the poke damage coming out of the Jason Navarus. This is what I'm going to offer you guys. I'm still going to throw out my ult and do my job.
That's exactly what we said as well, is that Kurak was sort of just there. He was just after blood. I think not going the Warmogs, not looking for the sustains, you can go get objectives. It was more, we're going to keep fighting because we can keep winning these fights. So I think Kurak's goal was, let's just get in there. And Skimmy, I think he did a pretty damn good job of that.
I would say so, yeah. The man was just fully sending it from the very get-go, and whilst that may have definitely fueled the fire to allow Diable's bot lane to come online and give you a little bit of false hope, like, hang on a minute, is the upset actually happening? He never changed that tune, right? No matter what his scoreline was looking like, it was a case of let me just link up with somebody else, be it Schoenfire or even Tien on many occasions. Wherever we go, success will be found, and that really was the story, right? They went to top lane, made sure that Mayfun never became a big fighting factor in the split push department, looked at mid lane, and yeah, Chong's just getting collapsed from every angle, right? So yeah, I think he can be pretty happy, especially at the very end then, because he afforded so much time to allow Fido to actually go for that backdoor Nexus.
Now, we see the Jace coming out as a bit of like an off-meta pick, Tally. So one of those ones. We've seen a couple of those rummaging around. Is there anything you think Direwolf should change up in their draft to maybe help them with the lead?
Well, I would look at their draft and say I like it. I just think matching Ground Zero at their strength is probably an error, because they just look so much better on the map than they did. I never really got to see Direwolves link up and, you know, utilize their protocol, just make this Lilia's life a bit easier. So I think, you know, going back to the more aggressive AD junglers and being able to, you know, contest Schoenfire in the early game if he does want to play these aggressive picks is just a better idea, because, you know, being able to put him behind was what we saw, you know, Bliss have so much success yesterday, and I think that, you know, that's a recipe for success that Direwolves could repeat.
That's why you see so many of those big bans as well. They banned the Amumu, the Respect band there, but no Nasus, unfortunately. We do want to see the dog come out. Tien has shown he can do it. But I think I'd like to see something a little bit different too. I think the Nidalee was a good pickup, but it felt like Shern, yes, still had a fantastic performance, but he did feel like they were really trying to give him a hard go at it. So I wouldn't mind seeing him get onto something like the Zyra too, just so we can see what it would be like. I think that's just something for me. I've watched him in solo queue so much, just playing it. let's just bring it to the stage. I think it's time. But
I
we'll have
I
to
just
wait.
love that point. It's just like, what I basically want is Zyra. It's just like,
So whatever I've
forget
said,
what I
it
said.
doesn't fully matter. That's okay.
Perfect.
But no,
Lose again.
let's get our Twitch points in. That's the big part. Let's do it. All right. Not even gonna point. You know where it is.
Definitely.
I don't need to point up in my reeling anymore. Yeah, Tally can point. I don't need to. Pop them in. It's the only way to stack. We're all about stacks. If you're playing with a static shield, you've got to get those stacks. If you're playing Yasuo, you've got to be walking around. Make sure you get that shield. That's a stack. You're playing Nasus. Got to farm with that Q. That's a stack. Stack channel points. That's all we can do in Twitch chat. So get on it. But that does take us to this next series. I'm pretty keen for this one, Tally. This is the big one. Like this bit of make or break. Like this really solidifies GZ firmly at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if we see another performance out of them, like we saw in this last game, confident to say that they're the best team in our league, bar none, because they just look a bit too strong on this current playstyle. But it could be another story. We could see Daiwa's kind of be like, all right, we tried, this certain approach that we prepared. Katsuri kept talking about how they had so many different scenarios prepared. So are they going to, do something completely different? Just flip the script, do another 180, just a different play style, and go back towards that more, protect the carry comp that we're used to seeing.
Protect the carrier, who knows? We're going to have to wait, but we're going to go to a short break as we get our team set up and ready for the next game. It is the final one of the night, Ground Zero versus Dire Wolves. It is going to finish off our first Super Week. It's going to be a good one. We'll see you there.
watch, it's carnage! The only triple happening here is for Phyto. Oh, it's do or die! It's Ground Zero up against Direwolves for the final time tonight and for the final game of this week as we get to see how this one does come to an end. And I mean, I would be lying if I say that first one was a game of two halves, because it was probably a game of about 10 minutes in which you felt there was an ability for Direwolves to really run away with it. But as soon as the Ground Zero engine really got roaring, they came back with a lot of heat.
Yeah, it only really felt like a competitive game in the very early parts of the match, and I think that Ground Zero just really took over the game going forward. And I want to know how much Direwolves can take away from that first game and like really improve upon like the errors they were making in that first game, you know, like not linking up, getting caught in the side lane so many times, you know, being late to these objectives. I think, you know, we saw multiple times Ground Zero recalls 3-4 members at the same time, always making sure they come back on that at the same time. But we saw Direwolves individually all over the map, not really linking up, going back on the same side scheme. As you know, we had one team pick blue, one team pick red, so we're going to run it back. What are they going to change?
But that's exactly the case, right? It's a case of, you know, what are we going to really see in terms of, will it be a very similar draft? Will the bans be the same? Because for the meantime, that they certainly are. We would be expecting a Camille ban, but that gets changed. Instead, it's an Ashe. And that means, well, if you ban one, we'll take the other. It really is as simple as that, Tally.
Is it strong enough to first pick, though? That's a really good question. I expect this to be picked in the first three, but I'm not sure if this will go down as the first pick. I assume they still want to go for the same play style, you know, find that. I think dropping Schoenfire in the draft makes sense to me because a lot of the time he has so many picks, so many different AP junglers he can always play, you know. Might end up being that Zyra this time if they do ban him out enough. But I'm looking at Tien, looking for that Camille early on because of how strong he looked in that Renekton Jax matchup. I
just love watching Tien's cam. He is so animated. You can tell. If I was to imagine what he's saying, it's like, oh, guys, I should have just picked Camille here, man. Just give me all the bans in the second rotation. It's fine. It's saying, nah. Lock in the Corki. It works so well. And for good reason, too, right? Fido really has been coming into a league of his own. But look at that for a switch-up. Skarner and Braum right out the gates.
Yeah, so we expected to see the Camille come here as the response to Skarner. If not that, maybe Show wants to play an AD jungler and allow Tien to play the Rumble into the Skarner. I do like the Braum pick into double AD carry comps. I think the shield is really undervalued, especially paired with your own AD carry and your own jungler. That, you know, that CC chain, the amount of damage you get in the early game with the concussive blows is very underrated. So have to see what this is going to look like, because more than likely Tien's going to be diving in by himself as that Camille, and Braum is so good at peeling.
It really is, right? When we talk about some of these champions, also when we had the conversation with Draco, it's like if you want to be the aggressive version of it, you play Alistar. If you want to be a little bit more passive and protecting, then Braum fits the bill. So let's see what they decide to pair with it. If we go full Exodia and have, like, you know, a Braum and a Sejuani and everybody's just unable to move or whatsoever, but it would seem that something's gone awry here. Maybe the lobby's just crashed because nothing was updating. So that's all we have to go off, Tally. Not much to really break down at this stage. Just a whole bunch of theory crafting.
Maybe they were like, oh, we didn't mean to leave Camille up, guys. We're sorry. Can we restart draft, please?
You know, that was actually meant to be a permaban. The fact that you hovered it reminded us of the fact that we've messed up. We maybe needed like a few more hours of draft prep.
But it is nice to see, Skimmy, that they have decided, you know, different approach, because I think running back the same comp is never a good idea. Number one, you always have that fear in the back of your head that you're going to end up in that same game state. You know, when the winning team, you always want to go back for that same style because you just won on it, right? So you want to use your same tools again, get another rep on it. Losing team, change it up, you know, try a different approach. You know, you have so many different preparation angles. You want to make sure that you're using multiple of them and not just, you know, tunneling on this one thing. And, you know, maybe it could be a bit of ego where you think that, oh, no, we didn't lose that game because of the draft, guys. Let's just do it again and it will be fine this time.
And to that point, I'm actually quite curious then what it means for the identity, especially for Direwolves mid-jungle. For it was a AP full clear, almost like I'm going to match you, Shern, and see if we can go, you know, trade for trade. But does that become a common theme here where every sort of team looks to adopt the sort of one AP and a dream idea? Or in Chungy's case, knowing that he is so flexible with such an expensive champion pool, was he saying, you know what, let's go back to business. You can play Skarner jungle, you know, perhaps, and I'll go back on these AP mages to be a real terror. And obviously in this occasion, all those bans still get committed towards him, and maybe just you feel as if the AD options are just better for your comp as a whole.
Well, when we look at the current mid-meta, Skimmy, I think that Tristana and Corki being like two of the better or best picks on the current patch is something to talk about. But also, like, when you look at the jungle, all these AP champions, even with the nerfs coming through to, you know, the AP jungle clear items, doesn't really matter. They're still like the best, you know, the best, you know, most proficient on the patch, especially paired with these really strong tank supports. Because we see, you know, if we have AP jungler paired with range support, it sucks. AP jungler paired with melee supports is really good. You know, tank jungler paired with tank support, also really good. So I think that you have multiple angles to attack with, and you know, Ground Zero being our best team, this being their favorite play style of that AP jungler AD mid, I think we'll see that adopted by other teams because it's like, oh, this is what the best team in our region does and it seems to work all the time. Why can't we do this, right?
Yes, a good point. It is a good point, right? It's certainly a case of, you know, copy and pasting and maybe not always getting the results that you would expect from what you've practiced or from what you've seen and what you believe should be possible for yourself or for your team. I suppose to carry on that point then, you know, going along the lines of, you know, mid-jungle identity, especially for Direwolves at least, it's what we brought up for Chungy's profile yesterday, and also we saw the carry side of things, be it the Yasuo and the Tristana. Jace would definitely, you know, fall into that same category as well. But do you see there being a world in which these facilitating, more supportive style mid laners are actually a viable option? Obviously, Ryze is very much in the back of people's mind and sort of very forgotten about. But we've seen a bit of Galio, we've seen TF, but that's been primarily towards top lane.
I think the problem with mid lane right now is if you do lock in stuff like the Ryze, the Galio, and the Twisted Fate, you're allowing your counterpart to pretty much scale for free. And I think that like giving a LeBlanc, Tristana, or a Corki a free laning phase and knowing they can hit mid game with 2 items like as fast as possible is extremely scary. They can absolutely take over these games. When you pick these champions, you really enable your 2v2. But I think in the meta right now with these, you know, Tristana plus let's say a brand, that 2v2 is extremely strong. You know, you can't just win that with like hitting a gold card and one-shotting someone anymore.
Yeah, it's true. It is true. And I'm sure, speaking of the TF, just to close that one out, glad that it's no longer being played towards the AD style of gameplay, right? All about that AP, all about what it was meant to be. But we're back into the draft, so thank you very much for bearing with us. It's going to be the Leona as well as the Camille to complement that of the Corki. So Tien does finally get what he is after. But the Akali is the response. And, you know, it's exciting, right, to see just another fork in Chungy's gameplay as to, yeah, I can play the carries, but it doesn't have to be just, you know, your stock standard control mages. I can really do it all.
Yeah, and so we say goodbye to Braum, and Norlis comes back in for his second game. The Akali, I'm very curious about their skimming because in times past, this has been one of the counters to Camille top. You know, it's really good at trading in the early game. You cannot proc the passive on Camille because you can't find the auto attack when Akali's weaving in and out of the Shroud. It's really good in the 1v1. As game goes on, you can match that side lane pressure, so you have to see if that is going to go to the top for main farm or that will stay in the mid because, once again, good matchup into the Corki. Gets to, you know, pretty much farm for free because Corki isn't that good of a laner. You know, he's good at pushing waves, but the harass won't stick against all the sustain coming out of Akali. So this 2v2, if this does go to the Akali does go to the mid, the 2v2 mid jungle for Direwolves will be really strong.
It certainly will be. It really, really will be. And especially now that they've banned away the likes of a Brand and Zyra, no real speedy clear, well, at least a premier speed clear AP junglers for Shern to pick on up. But 3 bans committed towards Katsuri. His best champions played the split, his only champions to be quite fair, in the Kaiser Varus and the Aphelios. So something new has to come out. He hovered one for a second, realizes, you know what? We've got the luxury of red sides. Let me see the entire comp before I decide, do I need mobility or can I actually just play a champion that just does unholy amounts of damage but can get jumped upon. So the Renekton is there to play. Nice little matchup into the Camille. But let's see what Grand Zero's answer is.
Well, the flex was broken by Direwolves, so they know the Akali is going to mid. And thinking of Fighto, he has a very big champion pool. And I think a lot of these champions counter the Akali if they do want to put this Corki into bot lane, which they absolutely can, you know, completely fine AD carry, especially paired with the Leona, and counter pick this Akali in the mid lane with something like the Akshan potentially. This could be a very tough laning phase for Chungy.
Let's see what they deliberate on, because as you mentioned, it is a good highlight that the Corki still is very flexible, whilst we've seen it pretty much all over the show. They hovered Caitlyn for a second, took time to consider, you know what is it actually that we're really after? And in the end, settle with the Zeri. So now that Katsuri's had all the time to consider what the best matchup would be into this, you're thinking, what is the partnership? Twitch would have been crazy. Haven't seen that in many, many years here in LCO. But could this finally be an angle for Kalista perhaps? Kalista Nautilus, Caitlyn? A few options up in the air.
Yeah, a lot of AD carries up for, you know, Katsuri to lock in. Does decide to go for the Caitlyn, so he wants that scaling threat. You know, if a hook does land, he can pair that up with the trap, you know, just have some pressure in lane. But I really like the Zeri coming out of Limus, you know, really good Direwolves comp. so low range, so much diving in. You think of what is really good, what has a lot of AoE damage in these team fights. You think of Siva and Zeri is mobile, can self-pill against this Skarner, against this Akali, and so it's a really, really nice pickup for Lemus.
It really is. It's a great pickup overall, and I think it's a case of, can we bully them in the early game once again? That's what Katsuri mentioned in his interview, right? I think his laning phase is probably the area we're looking to try and exploit the most, and no doubt, a Caitlyn with all those bushes to weave in and out to try and get those headshot stacks up nice and early to no doubt hook them into a trap to get that damage right there off the bat. It's definitely a good game plan. I'm sure the concern, though, does become about how does the rest of our team function? How do we look to try and make sure we have the map pressure in which this early game actually amounts to something later on?
Yeah, and I want to touch on the point that Katsuri brought up in the interview, actually, and we didn't mention it last game, where he said that Lemus was a weak laner, because I've heard from other people that Lemus' strength is his laning phase, because he's one of the only AD carries in our region who, you know, tries to create leads in laning, you know, doesn't just sit back and be like, okay, I'm playing AD carry, I can wait until 3 irons and just take over the game, right? He always tries to be aggressive in lane and create, you know, some avenue to build a gold lead through his own individual prowess. So, you know, it was surprising to hear that from Katsuri, but he's the one who lanes versus him way more than me, and he has a lot more idea about how Lemus functions as an AD carry.
No doubt or whatsoever. But here we are now loading into the Rift for our final time this week. The conclusion to the series, the conclusion to week number 4, and a chance to close it out for all 3 points here for Granzo, to continue to be the team to catch, the team to try and dethrone, but the one that is so hard to take on down. As for Direwolves, though, a chance for them to showcase as all this prep being worthwhile. We're scaling, we're improving, we're getting new members onto our team. It's only getting better for us, but let's see how good our cohesion is with a comp like this that has a few moving parts, certainly has a lot of pressure, but can it hold its own when it is all those individual matchups?
Yeah, and I think this is much more Direwolves style when we look at their comp. This is the meathead Direwolves comps that we're used to seeing, these front to backs. These are, you know, just dive in from multiple angles and try to do as much as we can and create space for Katsuri to really take over. I think that when you have these teams, these comps, you create a lot of volatility on the map and make sure a lot of pressure is taken away from Katsuri in the bot lane, so he's able to scale up and become that, you know, X factor in the late game when we get to see AD carries really shine. But we look at the other side, and I think something really curious to know is, you know, Lemus has gone for Conqueror, so he thinks that these team fights are going to be so extended that he's finally going to be proccing like 12 auto attacks on these members to get that Conqueror stacked up, get a lot of value in these team fights as the Zeri against all these tanks.
Absolutely. It's refreshing to see a different take on how to play a different champion, given that Zeri was so strong for so long. But speaking of, Mochi is just absolutely having it right now in a 1v1. Doesn't manage to guarantee the camp goes his way. Smite still up and available for Shern. He's just going to say, look, I'll leash the red buff for you. Nobody's coming to bail us out. Let's just keep the camera and the spotlight firmly on us.
Yeah, I think that's a bit too much for Shern. Gonna go around and try to steal the golems away. Have to see if Mochi does read this though. I think it'd be very good for him if he can do that. He does have level 2, so he will win the 1v1. Takes the W second instead of the Baru, so he doesn't really have that threat onto Shern. Shern has Smite here though, so this will always go to him.
And it most certainly will. So just a battle between who can clear only one side of the rift. We're not looking anywhere else. We're just not interested. So much so that our first blood has already happened. And what is one of those big skill check matchups, and one in which a Camille will take the TP as well as the Ignite instead of the Flash, but he does win out by a sliver.
Yeah, and that's the Ignite, you know, gap pretty much. He has that little bit of extra true damage in the early game. We saw how low Tien was. If he did not have that summoner, that would have been him going down. We get to get to see the replay in the pause, thankfully. So, you know, Mayfan tries to be aggressive here, abuse his level 2. You know, most of the time we see Renekton take the W at level 2 because of how strong that makes him in the 1v1. But Tien realizes he doesn't have the cooldowns to fight him back anymore and just goes straight in and gets that easy first blood.
And straight back to base, he's going to pick himself up a Cole and not opting for any more defense. You know, he's got the grasp. He's thinking, that's enough. I don't need the Doran's shield. I'll go fire for fire. Go for the Doran's blade. Just to have as much damage as possible. And you're thinking, you know, as long as that was calm and a jungle gank were to intervene, maybe, just maybe, Mayfan's able to get a bit of a lead and push Tien behind. But in back-to-back games, the first blood has gone his way. And I think that's just, you know, the levels of experience, not only in the role, but in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that would probably put Tien at the top when it comes to our solo kills in the league. You know, he just keeps finding them every single game. Not even one, but multiple on multiple matchups. And I think that just goes to show his prowess in top lane. He's just so comfortable in all these different matchups. Just you know, kind of going down the list, ticking the box. You'd be like, okay, Camille's up, I'll play Camille. Okay, Camille's banned, I'll play the next best champ for my team, whether that's going to be, you know, the Nasus or something completely random next time. I can't wait to see more from Tien as a player.
Absolutely, and I think it's actually a little bit of a nice problem to have, right? When you're not forced to actually show too much of your champion pool and can really have the grand reveal. Apart from obviously the Nasus and Amumu shenanigans last night, but to save it all and wait for the playoffs to truly come on through. Now we watch the most hype moment here of Mochi dropping incredibly low in the jungle, but does eventually manage to take away that camp for himself, so he'll be a happy man in the end. I'm quite curious, though, about this mid lane matchup. You mentioned how nice it can be for Fido at the best of times, given you can reveal in that smoke bomb, but how does Chongi want to try and navigate this? Is it a case of just wait to level 6 for the kill threat?
You kind of, as a Kali, you don't really have any lane pressure until your first recall. You know, you kind of need 3 points in that queue to really be able to start clearing the waves and match the power that Corki has in the early game. But Fido always going to be winning these trades as he can push the wave, harass, you know, sustain up with the fleet. If he does want to go for the Hex Drink on his first reset, he'll have no kill pressure onto him, but Katsuri might have some kill pressure onto him as he gets traded on in bot lane.
That he certainly may do. He's already burnt the cleanse in a prior skirmish, and the flash with the Caliber net also being burnt to cover great amounts of distance just to run away, because Kurak on this Leona
He's staying.
He's different gravy, man. And as you say, Katsuri doesn't want to go back to base. The wave is in such a horrible spot that he feels compelled to be here. Mochi being dragged down to this bot lane, but finds himself a Schönfei in the meantime, and actually does a whole bunch of damage to force him back out.
Yeah, I didn't really touch it, but Mochi has Grasp, so it's really interesting to see a jungler going for like a combat rune. Used to seeing stuff like the, you know, I forgot the name of the rune, the Aftershock, to really tank himself up in these team fights, but he's deciding to go for the Grasp. Probably feels there's going to be a lot happening in the early game, especially against Schönfei, who just loves to invade.
You would have been thinking, this is fantastic, right? If we meet at the level 1 mark in a trading and you're helping me clear up my camps, I'm just getting free Grasp Zacks. I don't mind this whatsoever. As the Vision Toggle shows, they're going to be fully aware that Mochi has now finally left their side of the river and is going to be going back to clearing his side of the map. But for Mayfine, it doesn't really improve anytime soon, it would seem. He's still copping the poor end of these trades. And no doubt I'll be screaming, Mochi, please help me. But at the same time, Katsuri's like, I've got no summoners, help me more.
Yeah, and we look at the wave state in top lane, this is really bad for Mayfine. You know, being close to the wall, having to use your Fury to push the wave could put him in a position where Tien finds another solo kill.
What would they look to try and do here? Flash up and available for Lemus as well as Kurak for them to have that surprise factor. As they do control the bush right now, very hard for Shinki to do too much. Then be there to peel and protect. Does have a flash and ignite himself to try and break up the combo that Granzura's bot lane would be hunting for. With no intervention to be found elsewhere, it's a rough spot to be right now if you are the jungler for the Direwolves. Tien once again getting aggressive, just out of range of the attack sweep because the ignite was committed. The bowling ball doesn't land either. And he's going to be walked all the way back. The flash forward, swing the mace, bop him down. And does he die to tower? He does! Not a paired trade overall. Actually gets Mayfine level 6 from the afterlife.
Yeah, and we look at both these side lanes for Direwolves. It looks very, very bad. Both lanes look quite, you know, punishable. But they're managing to keep the CS in, you know, minor margins. Not too bad. Katsuri doesn't have sums here. Constantly being engaged on by Kurak, trying to punish him for not having these summons. But Shinki's on the aggress here.
He certainly is on the aggress. Chucks it the ignite at the tail end of that one so much that Kurak says, oh, I'll flash. Fair enough. You've bullied me out on this occasion. I've tried to be a little bit too aggressive with the lane state that we do have. And credit to Katsuri, honestly, despite losing those summoners so early on, he is truly utilizing his laning strength to make sure that he's not falling too far behind in CS. There is a damage onto Kurak. He's running into no man's land. Chongi's like, well, I'll peel away from this one. That looks nice to me. The question becomes, can they catch him? Because he's a fair bit ahead and really wasting a lot of time.
Have to see if he does catch him on the vision exit here. So I don't think it's been long enough for the execute scheme. If this tower shot does not kill him, it has. But Chongi does pick up the experience, so that's the, you know, win for him, I guess, in the end. So, you know, he drops the wave, tries to rotate, loses the grubs on the top side, but grabs solo kill experience on the Leona when he falls down to the tower there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad affair. Silver lining, as you mentioned, right, being the XP, but would have really liked to get some gold to try and favor that matchup and give him a fighting chance into this Corki. Overall, though, it's an easy opportunity for Schönfei to continue to be aggressive because all these lanes are winning in his favor, to put all this deep vision, if you look at the top half of that map right there, to see the respawn of the red buff and make sure that Mochi isn't able to get anything too easily this time. So 2 grubs go their way, 1 denied. So at least something to slow down this steamroll.
Yeah, and we get to see just another Fido Corki performance. He just sits in mid, farms up for Storm, has a huge impact in the mid game, and I don't really know if teams want to keep giving him this champion because he's just doing so well in the laning phase. No one really picks these champs who are going to bully him in the 1v1, so he just gets to go uncontested and scale up and just, you know, be this AD champ that Schönfire needs in the mid lane.
Nice little hexagon to made him, but ult gets matched with another ult of his own as the Dominus is active to make sure that you're not going to kill me inside that arena. He's keeping this wave pushed against that of Tien so far, who no doubt will be counting the seconds as to when that ignite is up and available, but Mayfan says it's my time to shine. I think he's jumped the bullet a little bit too much here. And if it wasn't for that kill there, no doubt Schönfire would have picked him up as a straggler.
Yeah, and then we see the head shake coming out of Tien. He knows he buffed the passive really well. Mayfan flash with the Ruthless Predator onto him to try and get the one shot, but Tien delays the Q enough to get that one off after the stun land, so he gets the passive, gets the physical shield, and completely avoids the solo kill coming out of Mayfan.
Yeah, once again, showing that proficiency on a champion like Camille. Very hard to lock on down, and I suppose a big component as to why it got banned away in game 1, but it let it go through. He's TP'd straight back to lane, and he might just die again. The heal's there. The ignite has now come off cooldown, and you can just watch their 2 player cams, and it's just complete polar opposite reaction.
He's too good at this champion, Skibby. I don't know what to say, but we just see the engage going on to bot lane here. Kurek doesn't have the flash shield. Will Mochi be able to kidnap him back into his team?
Waiting for his moment to try and jump in. The Impale is being seized up. There it is. He's just going to stand on still. Kurek can't really go much further than that. Ace in the hole. Limus just can't get there in time to try and block that damage coming on through. And that's a bit of a good job, actually, of saying, where do you go, Limus? Like, you're stuck here between traps and the ability to try and just walk into us.
Yeah, Mochi's also done a good job to navigate this early pressure that Schönfire is really laying on him in the early game. Managed to, you know, keep the camp lead in, you know, within a minor margin once again, and just, you know, still have an impact on the map. Really nicely he finds the kill there, but like once again, we have to look to the top lane. This is a Triforce completed at 9 minutes, Skimmy, for this Camille, and it's just going to get worse and worse as time goes on.
It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying just how good he is on this champion, how good he is at the role right now in so much hot form, and it just hasn't dropped ever since the last few weeks of Split 1, right? It's fantastic to see. And with the Cull being picked up there as well, also with Limus too, I mean, not only are they winning, but they're just going to win so much harder in, the next few minutes.
Yeah, they always just, regardless if they win through their early game, you know, just being the better laners, or, you know, through a better comp or better macro, they always have good farm, and that's so important to just be strong regardless of the game state you put into. Always have, you know, this backup scaling in the back pocket, always have multiple side laners if they need to, you know, play from different avenues on the map, so it's really nice to see. I think Benby is doing good drafts, making sure this team has multiple avenues to attack the game in case bad stuff happens.
Certainly is that insurance policy to keep all their bases covered. Look at that damage onto Mayfine. How do you play? How do you honestly operate now? Well, maybe it's a case of just taking down Bambi. Schöndo baits them away, drops the vision line for just a second, and Tien says, watch this.
That's not fair.
They'll still be hunting, but I'm just OP.
Yeah, that is just not fair, Skivvy. We see how much damage the, you know, the Precision Protocol does with that true damage proc, almost half health Mayfine at that point. He's gonna base, it's gonna keep getting worse as game time extends. You know how much damage this Camille does later on to the game. We've all experienced it, and I think I'm scared for Katsuri when, you know, Thien starts grouping up for these team fights.
Yeah, no doubt be hunting down his old teammate from Chiefs many years ago, saying, wouldn't it be better if we were on the same side? But not going to be the luxury, unfortunately. Soon to cash in that Cole, soon to be even scarier. And I mean, to say he's this strong this early on, when it's a champion, you're talking about, what, 2 to 3 items spiking? Unbelievable. In the end, though, 5 Void Grubs go the way of Grand Zero.
Fido?
Wouldn't put it past them because they just have so much map control. Fido is doing the great trek from mid to bot. Limus says, I'll protect you. Shinky says, not on my watch. Flash forward, hits the passive, hits the ult.
Here comes
but dies.
Tien.
The lightning crash is getting it done. Limus now looking to try and keep that passive up and active. Tien TP's in. Absolute destroys Katsuri on cue like you mentioned he would. And Chungy with the ignite ticking. He's trying to run away.
Shot's coming back up.
He has the flash. Does he decide to use it? He has to. He panics, but it doesn't matter. Tech sweep, surely. And there it is. 6-0. Who can stop him?
I don't think anyone can, Skimmy. I think this is going to just keep growing and growing until it just becomes pretty much a nuke in the top lane. Tien is a one-man army right now for the Ground Zero side. He's going to base. I don't even know if he has enough gold to get his next item, but if he does, I'm so afraid for Direwolves.
There's no way Bro can go back to base and just pick up a Ravenous Hydra right out the gates at only 13 minutes. It all starts off with Fido running away. Then everybody says, let's just hard force.
Yeah, Fido looked like he was caught out of position, but he absolutely was. But, you know, there's just not the follow-up for Direwolves yet. You know, Mochi tries to follow up, but Limus do a really good job on the, you know, 2v1 down here with his team. And we get to see the power of Tien and Kurak, how much CC and how much damage they have when they are paired with each other.
Yeah, it's just so annoying to deal with now. And you hate to write a game off, but it just feels so terrifying because we've seen this position time and time again. And nobody had found an answer to shut this champion down. Back to base he does go, and yeah, he doesn't get that Ravenous Hydra, so we can breathe
Thank God, guys.
a sigh of
Thank
relief
God.
for the meantime. But let's just check in with the overall gold. 7k to his name, Mayfan 4.5. Yeah, there's you would say there's a bit of a gap.
Oh, just a little bit, but there is an engaged carry onto mid lane and have to see if they can get the CC onto the right members.
Yeah, they tried to go all in onto Kurak, really a straggler left behind by his team, and that's what they'll pick up. But even then, it took a bit of an age to get it, but they really need whatever they can find at this stage, because between the 5 Void Grubs, the split push tactics of not only the Camille, but also that of the Corki, the map pressure becomes even harder to try and wrestle back for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, and it's not worse, Skimmy. They committed their, you know, major engage tool in the Flash Impale onto a support. Limus is still catching mid waves. They're not getting any pressure on the turret. Tien is still getting prior on the weak side of the map, and on the other side of the map, we see Mayfan getting lower and lower from Fido, and this is probably a very easy dive for Schönfire.
It's not even a dive, really, is it? It's literally a chuck at a skill shot, walk away, job done, and just smiles across the board. They go in for the dragon. It's to be taken by Mochi, already for an objective bounty, 14 minutes in, already down 7,000 gold. Fido TP's in and says, I want to get in on the celebrations. Limus is diving turrets, diving jungles, doesn't care where anybody is. And Chungi's like, just make it fair. Oh man, this game is an absolute blowout.
Yeah, this is just, I would write this one off, Skimmy, and hopefully your Insurance can cover the damages that Ground Zero is doing to Direwolves right now, because this is just going to keep getting worse and worse as the game extends. They have the scaling advantage, and they're probably going to find another kill on the Katsuri right now.
They certainly will. Unbelievable there. You're just thinking, oh yeah, it's just a merry 1v1. Along comes Kurak, guarantees the combo, says, there you go, Limus. Get what you deserve. Is actually going for the static shiv. And we'll have so much wave clear and all that on-demand burst. So, yeah, very hard to find a way back in for this game if you are Direwolves right now. Yes, you got a dragon. That's sole point. Forget about it at this point. I don't think the game goes anywhere near long enough to even consider it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if we look at the inventories right now, Skimmy, we see the 2 items completed by Tien, and you would think as Direwolves, okay, if we take down this Camille, we can finally, you know, fight them back. But then you look in the mid lane at Fido, he also has his own 2 items coming up on 16 minutes. So there's just so much strength for this roster already.
Yeah, there is just too much strength. You take down one, it's a Hydra. They have multiple heads. It's just too hard to defeat right now. A raid boss would be selling it short. As they go in for the Impale, it's an airball. That's absolutely tragic. Across the wall goes Mochi. Not going to get put to sleep just yet, but may do in a second with the assistance of Ground Zero doing the damage to them. Everybody looking to try and burn on down low. Fido flanking from the side like he's Praetor, acting as an assassin. There's the zap, there's the Valkyrie, the turret. Forget about it. Double, not to be a triple. Tien wants to hit double digits, and they want to find that perfect ace.
Where is safe, Skimmy? If not your towers, if not your base, where can you hide from this team of Ground Zero right now? Everywhere they go, everywhere they attack, it's completely one-sided.
It is brutal. 12k lead at this point of the game is just unthinkable. And even in a winning position, you would say for Kurak, oh, maybe, just maybe, you itemize towards that warbug. Snap always goes for that lock. It seems very comfortable with that one secured. And now that mid lane really is very barren.
Yeah, it's absolutely very barren. As we do go into the replay, we get to see, you know, Kurak caught out of position in a sense, but his team has the collapse first. We get to see Schönfire and Limus shot first, and they're like, come on, leave our boy alone. TP's coming through. It doesn't really matter when Tien's already on the rotation because he's priority in the side lane, and Katsuri cannot follow up with any damage going through because he has to respect how scary these side laners are from Ground Zero.
It's just terrifying, right? They're losing in the side lanes, they're losing in the team fights, and it sounds obviously very, very negative, but it's very hard to figure our way out of this situation because You can get a shutdown, you can get a few, but I just don't see a world in which you can actually really ascertain that without some monumental throw from Ground Zero's side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of getting deja vu. You know, I've watched Ground Zero on the other side of a stomp like this, of this magnitude before, you know, overseas. So it's nice to see that they're the ones doing it themselves. They're finally coming in together as a team and being this absolute powerhouse. As the weeks go on, they keep getting better and better and better and showing more and more. It's just really exciting to see as another team fight does start.
That it certainly does. Legion of Void Bites in the top lane there with the assistance of Shelly getting in on the fight. You can see a two-man impel on the bottom of your screen. What the action is at is where the Herald is in the top lane. They have found it. The perfect KDA rune for Tien. 9-1-9, but it's a triple kill for Lemus. And as we said, it is that multi-headed Hydra. You kill one, but it's just way too many threats. You're thinking, oh, but Lemus then must be the star of the show. In comes Fido. Did you forget about me, boys? He thinks he's done enough, but the shielding off the Skarner is so annoying. And then, in the end, finally, we get ourselves an ace.
It's just way too tanky, Skimmy. I don't think this will be the end of the game yet for Direwolves, but this will be the double inhibitors going down most likely. And with the map being broken like this so early on in the game, it is so hard. Even though you are going to be getting all this free farm from the inhibitors going in, there's objectives that are going to be spawning for Ground Zero that they'll be able to take uncontested because there's just minions flooding into your base over and over.
Let's run it back with the replay one more time to see how it all starts, because initially it's just a case of jumping on, hitting the blast code. We called out Katsuri, but then it just goes every different angle. Tien gets so eager.
Yeah, Tien thinks he's a bit stronger than he is, you know, tanks the entire team and unfortunately goes down. But once again, we mentioned, like, you cut off one of the Hydra heads, there's so many more. There's Lemus, there's Fido, there's Shern. They are all so strong right now in this game, and you have to take them all down if you want any chance of dealing with this monster right now.
I feel so sorry, though, for the Direwolves right now, though, because you can see they're getting absolutely crushed in this one. And you know, how does your mental feel after something like this? I mean, it must feel so dejecting to know, like, we've just been publicly shamed like this. And, you know, maybe not for yourself domestically, but as you mentioned before, right, when we have gone overseas, if we're not having these close games, usually against the major regions, we're getting crushed by these 15k leads at 10 minutes. And I just have to wonder, how do you feel in the moment you're like, it's just hopeless?
Well, to be fair for Direwolves, I think they had a really good showing in the first game, and Katsuri mentioned in his interview, they aren't finished with filling all the parts, but we get back to that scheme because they finally got Lemus.
They finally did find another one of those major carry threats. It's a nice bit of shutdown gold, but does it really change the outcome? I don't really think so. Inside the fountain lays Mochi, waiting for his team to respawn around him. He's going to wait a long 20 seconds. And I don't think his base will still be standing by that point, unfortunately. 20 minutes on the dot. It won't be a new speed record, but boy, is that a fast way to close out Super Week.
19,000 gold, almost 1,000 gold lead per minute, Skinny. That's unbelievable. What a stomp coming from the Ground Zero side. But, you know, as I was saying earlier, there's still more to see from Direwolves. Katsuri mentioned all the pieces of the roster aren't put together, and we'll get to see that next week. So I'm excited what this, you know, dark horse of our league looks like going forward.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned quite rightly, they looked very good in those first few minutes of game number one, but coming into game number two, it was just too much to overcome. And Ground Zero once again showcasing why they are the reigning champions, why they are undefeated at the top of the table. We'll jump to a final break, and then we can wrap up all the action right after this.